Buenos dias. I'm here in my family household, even though it's away from our home in Pennsylvania. And here's a member of my family, my wife Kelly.
Hello. Buenos dias.
So she's working on her stuff for ESU as well. She's in one of the family rooms, which is a concept that has been around for not forever in the family household, but in modern day times in the suburbs. And coming down here, here's another member of my family, my daughter Fiona.
Hi.
She's getting ready to go out with her friend who's Mexican down here. She's known her for years. And now I'm going to walk out to the patio. And I'm using this intro to set the stage for what we're talking about today, which is about social media in a family setting. And that's what this chapter talks about. I want to say, by the way, that as you've probably already concluded from this book, there's a lot of material social media-wise that is pretty old. Talks a lot about Friendster and MySpace, etc. I hope you're able to get past that to get at the concepts, which are still very relevant. As this author discusses social media, we can still apply those concepts like we will today, hopefully. So one of the key points we want to make about family in its relation to social media right off the get-go is that family lives have been more dispersed. I think that's a great word used in the chapter, more dispersed than ever before because of social media. Just think about the multiple rounds of family photos that you have been through looking at your various social media platforms over a family-related holiday. First Christmas, and then soon it's going to be New Year's, which is more about friends than family. I think you might agree. But we are seeing the dispersal of family images, family photos, how people have grown, the way people look now, what they're eating, the mementos in their household. Lots of things about the family are dispersed now because of social media. We know that social media is shaped by the context of each particular family as well. That every family has their own set of rules. You have your own rules that you've grown up with in your family, many of which I'm sure that you defied as a teenager coming of age, but when are you allowed to take the cell phone out? Are you allowed to have a TV in your room? When do you get your first cell phone? What kind of a cell phone is it going to be? Is it going to be one of the best iPhones right away, or do you have to work your way up according to your parents? Are there certain time periods that you're restricted from using your cell phone? Are there certain data allowances that are placed on top of you? When is it okay to use social media in general, and when is it not okay? Those are rules that are governed by families, and of course not every single person follows that. It's very difficult to control it, to be quite honest, especially amongst teenagers. But for the most part, our domestic context of social media use does influence our social media use, at least in the family setting. Also, we want to make the point that domestic space, the place that we consider to be home, that's what domestic space is, it used to be much more private than it is today. It used to be a place where you could kind of retreat to, close your door, lock it, pull down your blinds, and you had a complete cutoff from the outside world. And sometimes this was necessary when the world was too much for you, or when it's been an exhausting day, or when you come home and you really just want to be with the people who you're closest with, your family. That was a very, very private space that is now, along with this idea about family life being dispersed, it has now been opened up. And that's because of media technology. That's because of Skype. That's because of email. It's because of texting. It's opened up that family domestic space. And yet the home on the inside is just crammed. That's a word that's used in the chapter, crammed with media equipment. If you're at home right now and you're not in your car and you're watching this video, take an imaginary walk from one side of wherever your living space is to the other. And how much media will you encounter that's kind of obstructing your walk? Like how many cords to cell phones might you trip over? How many laptop chargers do you have to navigate your way around? How many devices will be sending audio to your ears that kind of push you because it's at a certain volume, it's at a loud volume level? Video gaming, TVs on, radios on. Where are all the gadgets in your home? They're all over the place. Our homes are just crammed with gadgets, many of which are screens, computer screens, laptop screens, and phone screens. And within the home, we have access to rooms in ways that we didn't have before, also because of social media, as in when a mother texts their child to come down for dinner, or as in when you make a post and you attach a photo to it from your room, and your brother or your sister also posts a Christmas photo and they're doing it from their room. You have access to that room in a way that you didn't have before, and you have access to communicating with that person even though they're on another part of the house. Now, the book contends, and I'll leave this to you to figure out whether you agree or not. The book contends that people who put a lot of their family stuff on social media, photos, checking in where they are, talking about family vacations, all of that and more, when they do that, they're tending to be doing that because they are fighting obstacles in their life that would normally keep the family together. For example, they have divorce in the family, or for example, they come from a lower economic strata, or lower economy, and they're not able to spend money and go out and do things like other people are able to do, like eat out for dinner. That's for you to decide, but I think it's a question worth considering. Also, let's look at social media specifically in the bedroom, because the bedroom, what's that room for, or what has it traditionally been the room for prior to social media? And I am going back a ways here. It's for what it is. It's to sleep in. That's what a bedroom has. In the beginning, if you look at the Puritans and when they came over, if you've ever been over to the Mayflower exhibit in Massachusetts, you'll see that people lived in huts and they didn't have their own private room. They had little cots made out of straw and sometimes hammocks, but everybody slept out in the open together. So the concept of a bedroom was something that came along as housing expanded, and it became a place just to sleep. Today, however, because of social media and traditional mass media, the bedroom is a personal space. It's not just a bedroom. It's a place that you go to get away from people. It's a place that you go to work on your homework. It's a place that you go to be entertained. It's a place that you bring friends up to and close the door and nobody else can come in, or at least that's what you hope. Bedrooms today are personal spaces, in part because of the TVs, the video gaming, and of course our cell phones inside those spaces. Now, parents struggle with social media just like they have struggled with media of more traditional kinds, like television, radio, not so much newspapers, but traditional media. And I can tell you that as a parent, I totally can empathize with this. Parents restrict kids' media use because they are aware that there's a mountain of criticism out there about kids spending too much time on their phones, kids looking at electronics before they go to sleep at night and try to have a peaceful slumber, kids being too caught up in bullying and anxieties that go along with texting. These are concerns that are talked about all the time, as well as many others, such as bullying and sexting and phishing and all the rest of them. So parents, they're told by traditional media, radio and TV news reports, that we should be very vigilant and should restrict kids' use. But we always have a soft spot, parents, and that soft spot is we are open to getting a new phone for our kid. We're open to letting them subscribe to a TV service, Netflix, etc., if in our minds we think that it's going to have an educational value for kids. Of course, once kids get the phone, once they get cable TV in their bedroom, and what they use it for is usually radically different from what parents are expecting. But that's sort of an age-old problem and weakness for parents in the family context of social media use. Now, having said that, some social media can and do bring families closer together. Families that play video games, families that play on Wii, families that share things on Facebook and speak to each other, especially when certain members move out of the home because they're going to college or moving away. Families stay together because of social media. Skype is another tool that's used. Families are able to do things on social media, not so much in the having fun, like playing around kind of thing, but at certain times researching things, at certain times communicating and posting photos. Social media and digital media can bring families together. And also, kids routinely get to teach families, and particularly parents, new stuff. I can tell you, if we ever get a device in our household that needs to be connected to the wireless network so that it can communicate with every other gadget we have in our household, I'm getting my son. I'm saying, Gordon, can you come help me find the IP address or whatever it's asking for? Kids teach parents and grandparents, to a lesser extent, new things. How to use Snapchat, how to change your profile, how to do simple, complicated, and cutting-edge things. Kids are naturally going to be ones to know that, and it's an empowering thing for them to be able to help their parents do that, to help them learn social media. Now, what about families that involve immigrants? Some of you in this class have those kinds of families, and right around this time of year or during New Year's, you're going to check in with your originating family back in Italy or England or Ireland or wherever they are. You're going to do that, and you're using social media. So the book has an interesting section, talks about people who are Filipino and how mothers were affected in particular by their going to work in countries and leaving their kids behind. Not something that we generally have in our Western society, but in the Philippines that is a possibility because of the rates of poverty and where the employment opportunities are. And it discusses how the mothering changes over social media and the way that the kids prefer to communicate, etc. But the larger point here is that when you do have families that branch out and move to other countries and they want to remain part of that family network, which is expanded because of social media and the ability for all families to keep in touch with each other, it does change the way that parenting is afforded to the parent and the child, because the mother, the father, whoever's away, will try to do part of the child rearing on social media. So you will have Facebook time, you will have instant messaging, you will have emails, you will have posting of photos, you will have a lot of that is designed to be parenting away from home. And I think that's a really other interesting use of how the family structure has been redefined by social media. And the last point that we want to make, focusing in specifically on mothers in the household, which the book claims, by the way, is the member of the household who tries to control media on their kids' part the most. You can think about whether that's true, whether it's your mother or your father. The book claims it's the mother. The mothers are sometimes in this uncomfortable and, I have to say, strange new are in this strange new dimension of modern day life, in that they are part of the, quote, generalized other for their kids' media use. Now, that's a term we discussed in the last chapter. That's this group of people out there that are connected to you only because of your social media networks, and they're out there and you know very little about them. They're composed of certain groups of people that you control through your privacy settings, etc. But there's a whole group of them out there who you don't really know exist. You know that they're lurking, you know that they're there, and mothers find themselves in that role increasingly to keep in touch with their kids, to follow them on Twitter, to make sure that they're okay and they're not really hiding something that's going to be detrimental to them. Mothers are lurkers, and they are hiding behind anonymity to some extent, but it also puts them in the category of being the generalized other when, after all, they are your mother. And so I hope you enjoyed today's material and think about it in the context of your family. Have a great day.